This video can get you into Amazon. If you are preparing for companies like Amazon, Microsoft, or any top based product companies, then this video is for you. Hey guys, welcome to Learn from IITN. I am Ganesh Patil. I studied in SDE Nanded and IIT Madras in Computer Science Department. I have worked with Amazon, VMware, Intel, and currently I work with Microsoft Bangalore. This video is about how to prepare for Amazon. Since I had cleared Amazon interview rounds for SD2 and I have conducted few rounds for SD1 and for internship positions, so you can fully trust on this video. In this video, I'll be explaining how you can prepare for Amazon internships and SD1 and SD2 positions, how you have to answer the leadership principle answers, and then once you get selected, how you can excel at your internship and grab the full-time opportunity. So this video is specifically for the engineering students and the graduates who have got the interview calls from for the internships and SD1 or SD2 positions. In the interviews, Amazon focuses only on these points. How is your data structures and algorithms? How are your coding skills? Any language is fine. Let it be C, C++, Java, Python, any language is fine. Can you tell the complexity of your solutions? And your solution should be the most optimal one. And finally, in each and every interview, they will be judging you on the leadership principles. I'll be talking in detail about these leadership principles after the technical discussions of DS, algos, and coding. To build any building, you need strong foundation. And this is the list of 21 problems which are quite basic, which builds your fundamentals and prepare you for the rounds which are much complex and difficult. So generally I conduct this workshop. So if you or your college is interested in such workshops, please contact me on my email ID, which is patil.88@gmail.com. So this workshop starts from your hello world till it goes to the tries, dictionaries, hash map, and hash sets. If you are a beginner in data structures and algorithms, you should definitely try this list first and then move ahead. For this, you don't have to have any fancy editors, online portals which provide the editors. Those are also okay. Using any of the online portals, you try to write something which is as simple as hello world. You write a hello world program, try to execute it. If you get the output, then done. You are ready to go for the next level of problems. You should also know the functions and the methods. Generally, in the interviews, they will be asking you about the method or a function to solve a particular problem, and you are expected to write only that function or method. You should be able to write what kind of parameters it will be receiving, what kind of output it will be returning. For example, if somebody asks you to sum all the array elements, so your parameters or the arguments will be the integer array, and in return you will be returning an integer which is the sum of all the array elements. So once you know these basic functions and methods, try to write a simple array program. Declare array, just a static array, and try to traverse it in the method. Now this method was not returning anything, it was just void. Now the next method, which will return sum of all the elements, it will have a return type as integer. So write a method to sum all of those array elements. After that, work on the binary search on the sorted array. Most of the array problems will be converted to sorted array and then working on it. So you should definitely know the binary search on the sorted array. After that, Try an array problem on Leetcode platform. Leetcode platform has premium subscription also and free uses as well. So for this you don't have to pay anything. Just try a sample array program. With that you will come to know how you can cover all the test cases, all the edge cases, and write just that method or program. After that, move to strings. Write some string programs with library functions such as calculating the length of the string, concatenating two strings. Then we'll be working on the problem for strings, which is to find out whether two strings are anagram of each other or not. After that, let's move ahead with the 2D arrays, which is a basic matrix program. And if the matrix is sorted row wise and column wise, then you should optimally find out a given number. After that, move ahead with the data structures like linked lists. So write a program to build a linked list and traverse it. For linked list, we'll be solving one problem, which is getting the nth node from the end of the linked list. After that, move to trees. Write a binary tree and binary search tree and try to do level order traversal, finding out an element in the binary search tree. After that, move ahead with the graphs. Know how to write the graphs, how to traverse, such as BFS and DFS algorithms, and topological sort on the graphs, which is quite important. It can solve numerous problems. After that, move ahead to dictionary or tries. Write a sample program to add a word to the try, find the word, get the word, and then move ahead with hash map and hash set concepts and related problems. Once you do all these problems, your foundation will be pretty strong, and basically you can solve any problem ranging from arrays, strings to dictionary. So as I said, you will have to write only a method or function which solves that problem. So for example, interviewer asks you, return the list of elements in the left view of a binary tree. So tip number one is never jump to the solution straight away, because there will be lot of unknowns or fuzziness in the problem. For example, here, even if you would have done this problem, still there are lot of unknowns. For example, what kind of list the interviewer is expecting, what kind of elements does the binary tree have. So these kind of things will be there. So to begin with, whenever interviewer asks you the question, ask the clarifying questions, such as what kind of list the interviewer expecting. Are you expecting array list or linked list? What sort of elements does the BT contain? See, the element could be integer, floats, or characters, right? But most of us are more comfortable in binary tree elements as the integers. So ask the question like this: what sort of elements does the BT contain? Can I take them as integers? And 90% the interviewer will say yes, okay, take integers. So don't assume the things, always ask the clarifying questions, and don't straight away jump to the most optimal solution, even if you know the most optimal solution for that problem. To begin with, to break the ice, tell some brute force approach and the issues with the complexities. For example, if somebody asks you to sort the array, don't directly jump to the quick sort and give the most optimal solution. First, you can tell the interviewer, okay, I can take two for loops and kind of bubble sort, I can sort the array. But the complexity will be order of n square because of two for loops. I have the I have better solution than this. I can write a sorting algorithm which can cater to n log n in the average case scenario. And which is that algorithm? It is quicksort. After getting the nod from the interviewer, then only you start writing the solution. So discuss the optimized approach first with the interviewer. Tell them that I'm planning to solve this problem in this way. Can I go ahead? So if interviewer likes it, he will say, okay, go ahead and write the code. If it is still not the most optimal one, interviewer will try to give you the hints. Try to catch those hints and then solve the problem. So as I said, we will be writing only the function or the method for solving that problem, but there are few things which you need to tell the interviewer beforehand. For example, if you are working on a node, a binary tree node, you should tell him that I'll be using a structure like this. So I'll be using a class bt node, and it will have the element as integer data and left and right as the left and right pointers. So you first mention this, that I'll be using this node, and your problem will be considering these variable names in the solution. After that, properly write the method declaration. For example, here left view of binary tree. So while writing, you should properly clearly indicate that it is receiving the root node of the binary tree. So bt node root is the parameter, and it will be returning the list, and I'll be taking that list as the array list, but while returning I can write this superset of the list. Instead of array list or linked list, I can write the interface name there. So you can see on the return type, it's list of integer, and then my answers will be stored in the nodes, which is list of integer, and this list is actually the array list. And finally, after applying the logic, I'll be returning this list. So I have written return nodes. Now this logic can have further function calls as well. So don't assume things that everything will be called from main. So from main we'll be calling only this method. Try to minimize the interactions with the main method. Main method should just give you the root of the node and expect the output. And all the other things, for example, here in the while calculating left view of binary tree, I will have to have the height of the tree, and then I'll be printing the first node in that particular level. So this has to be done entirely in our function. So here calculating the height, I will write new method and so on. So few another tips while writing the code: just don't keep mum. You just keep explaining what you are writing, otherwise it will be just a monologue. After writing the code, before handing over to the interviewer, make sure it is correct. Syntax wise, logic wise, it is correct. All the boundary and edge cases are considered. For example, here if root itself is null, then you don't have to actually do anything, right? So your first statement should be, if root is null, then just return empty list. So that should be one approach which will cover all the boundary and edge cases. Try to dry run your code and with some sample values and find out its correctness. Explain the time complexity and space complexity and find out and tell how this approach was better than previous brute force approaches. So now let's see overall what topics does Amazon focus on. So we have arrays like 1D arrays and 2D arrays, which are matrices. Sorting algorithm, there are a lot of sorting algorithms, but just focus on these two: quick sort, topological sort, and another is heap sort. So just do these three algorithms for sure. Then focus on strings, linked lists, trees, which are binary tree and binary search trees, graph travel algorithms like breadth first search and depth first search. As an SD1 or internship candidate, you don't have to dive deep into dynamic programming problems. Very few basic problems, which I'll be telling, only those problems should be enough, because I don't think there will be much focus on the DP problems. So I have come up with a list of 46 problems ranging across all the topics which are really important, and if you are appearing for Amazon, you must do these 46 problems and then only you appear for the interviews. So let's deep dive in all the 46 problems. The PPTs for this presentation will be up on my Telegram channel. So please subscribe to the Telegram channel. The link will be shared at the end and it is there in the description as well. So these are the important problems on arrays. So first problem is determine if the sum of two integers is equal to the given value. Okay, see, array is given. It is, so you first should ask whether the array is sorted or not, whether it contains only integers or negative numbers, those kind of clarifying questions. And the approach will be, you sort this array and then take the left pointer and right pointer. If the sum is of left pointer and right pointer is higher, then you reduce the right pointer. If it is lesser, you increase the left pointer. At some point of time, you will receive the sum of those two elements to the given value. If it doesn't exist, then you return that such value doesn't exist. Next problem is search in a rotated sorted array. It's a modification of binary search. You should know the basic binary search and the modified binary search for this. So the array is sorted, but it is rotated across some point. For example, if the sorted array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the rotated array might be 3, 4, 5, 6 and 1, 2. So in that case, you need to write the binary search, which is modified binary search. Next is kth largest or smallest element in the array. For this, you need to use heap sort. So you perform the heap sort thrice and k times and you get the kth element. Next problem is, does the array contain sub array with sum 0? Okay, there is distinction between sub array. Sub array will be always contiguous, all the contiguous elements. So the question is whether there exists any sub array which has sum is equal to 0. So basically there are positives and negative numbers, and whether sum is equal to 0 or not, that you need to find out. Next problem is, given an array containing only zeros, ones and twos in any order, you need to segregate all zeros first, then ones and then twos. This problem is typical to flag, it is called as flag segregation problem, and these problem statements are pretty standard. Once you just Google them, you will find out the problem statement with the solution. Next problem is, you are given train timings like in and out time, and you need to find out the minimum number of platforms required. Next problem is, maximize profit in the stocks. So you are given an array which contains the stock prices across multiple days, and you need to find out when you should buy the stock and when you should sell the stock so that your profit will be maximum. Ninth problem is find out an element in the row wise and column wise sorted array. So this is a matrix which is sorted in row wise as well as column wise, and you need to find out that. So if we just go by brute force, you will traverse the entire matrix and find out the number. Or second approach, you can apply binary search row wise and column wise, but it will still not give the optimal solution. So the solution is start traversing from the rightmost top corner of the matrix and traverse based on the desired number, whether you will be going to the left or going to the down. That way you can find out that number. Next is rotate a matrix by 90 degrees. This is in place rotation. You can find out the algorithm for this on internet. Next topic is strings, and strings actually has pretty basic problems, but when they are combined with the backtracking approach, that time the problems actually become complex. So you must do these 5 problems on strings. The backtracking approach for giving the permutations of the string. If ABC is the string given, write out all the permutations. So there will be 8 permutations like ABC, ACB, BAC, CBA, and that sort of. Next problem is also quite popular. You are given an n integer, let it be 2, 3, and you need to print all the valid parentheses of in multiple of those pairs. For example, n is equal to 2. So valid parenthesis could be opening, closing, opening, closing. This is one valid combination, and opening, opening, and closing, closing. This is the second valid combination. Apart from that, there won't be any valid parenthesis combination. If n is equal to 3, I think there will be 8 such combinations. This is quite a real world problem for the compression, image compression, and the other stuff. So this is a string like AAA, BBB, DD, and you need to write down the compressed form of that string. For example, A comes 3 times, B comes 3 times, and D comes 2 times. So this is a string compression problem. Next problem is given 2 strings. Find out if they are anagrams of each other. Anagrams are the strings which are just modified by replacing the positions of the same characters. So you need to essentially find if both the strings contain exact number of characters and exact characters. Next is remove spaces from the line. If the line is given, you need to remove the spaces. So there could be multiple spaces in between 2 words. You need to remove all of them. Let's move to the linked list problems. Again, a classic problem, detect a loop in the linked list, which can be solved by using 2 pointers, which one runs 1 node each time and another fast pointer runs 2 nodes at one time. And if there is a loop, both will collide at the same node sometime. Next is find out the middle of the linked list in a single pass. See, in general, if you just go by brute force approach, this is quite simple. You just count the number of nodes in the linked list, and let's say there are 11 nodes, then you go to the 6th node and say this is the middle one. But if you want to do it in the one pass, how will you do that? Again, 2 pointers you need to use. One moves 1 node at one time and another moves 2 nodes at one point. When the fast pointer reaches to the end of the linked list, the first pointer would have covered half of its distance, and that's the middle of the linked list. Next one is nth node from the end of the linked list. Again, brute force approach would have been quite simple. Count the number of nodes, and let's say there are 10 nodes and you are asked to give the third node from the end. You would have 10 minus 7, so you will again traverse to the 7th node, and that's your nth node from the end of the linked list. But this has to be done only in a single pass. So again, 2 pointers concept. One pointer you move forward by n positions and keep first pointer in the first position and simultaneously move both the pointers till the forward pointer reaches to the end of the node. So you get the nth node from the end of that linked list in that case. Next problem is reverse a linked list in a single pass. All the pointers need to be reversed, not just the numbers to be replaced. So all these pointers can be done using three pointer concept: previous, current and next pointers. Next one is modification of that. Instead of complete reversal, you are required to reverse a list in a group of k. If there are elements like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and k is given as 2, then pairwise you need to reverse. So list will look like this: 2, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5 and so on. Next one is given two linked lists, find out if they intersect each other. Next problem is add two numbers represented as linked lists. If a big number is given and each place is stored in the node of that linked list, just do the addition. Generally this is used when integers or double values cannot store that particular number. So in order to have your capacity to be more than that number, you will have to store the numbers in the linked lists. So this is again a real world problem. Next is clone a linked list with random pointers. Generally linked list has only one pointer, which is next pointer, but this is a modified linked list which has two nodes. One goes to the next and one node, and one pointer points to the random node in that linked list. So you are asked to clone that linked list as it is. Next is delete a given node when start of the linked list is unknown. So you are just given a reference to the node which is not the start, but you are asked to delete that node. So in that case, you actually copy the next node in the given node. The number is copied, and then next node is, and the next pointer is pointed to the given's next. That way you can have a illusion that particular node is deleted. Let's move on to the binary tree problems. Again, in the traversal, in order, pre-order, post-order, those are quite basic traversal. In the 21 workshop problem, we had already covered that. But for Amazon, you must know these traversals as well, which are level order traversal, spiral traversal, vertical order traversal, boundary traversal. You must know views of the BT, like left view of the binary tree, right view of the binary tree, top view of the binary tree, and bottom view of the binary tree. I'm pretty sure 50% of you will find a problem on these 2 points. Next problem is convert a binary tree into its mirror tree, where you need to swap the left and right pointers. Next is given two trees, are they identical or mirror of each other? Again, using recursion you can solve this problem. Next problem is again a classic, very important for Amazon: n distance nodes from a given node. So tree is given and one reference node is given. You need to print all the elements which are n distance from that node. So now this n distance looks quite easier, like you will just go down n level and you will just print those, but it's not that easy. If the node is such that, let's say it's just a child of root node and n is given as 3, in that case you need to actually go to the right of the root and print those nodes also, because those are also n distance from that node. So all the down levels, all the nodes in another subtree, those also have to be printed. So this is a must do problem. You definitely should do this problem. And 70% of you will find a problem from this list of binary trees. So don't miss this topic at all. Next is binary search tree. Quite standard problems on binary search tree, like finding out the least common ancestor, and given a BT, find out if it is BST, because BST has a property that right side node will be higher than the root and the left side node will be lesser than the root. So the given binary tree should hold this property for all the nodes, then only it will be called as the binary search tree. Next problem is convert a sorted array to binary search tree. Again, quite popular problem. Now comes to the graph traversal. Many people are afraid of graphs, but if you complete the problems from my workshop list first and then you come back to these problems, these will actually feel quite easier. Very important problem, the first one, finding the number of islands in a matrix of zeros and ones. So matrix is given and it is filled with zeros and ones. One indicate land and zero indicates water. You need to find out how many consecutive ones are there so that it forms the land on that matrix. This is classic problem of DFS. Using DFS you can solve this problem and find out the number of islands. Another very important problem, rotting oranges problem. Matrix is given, one rotten orange is kept in one of the cell. In one day it can affect the adjacent good oranges. So find out in how many days all the oranges in that matrix will be rotten. Again, very important problem on the graph traversal. You definitely should do these two problems. Next is topological sort. Many problems can be solved using topological sort when the problem is this sort, like 1 goes to B, or work completion, like A depends on B, B depends on C, C depends on D, in that hierarchy which is on the top. So those kind of problems can be solved using topological sort. Next one is dictionary, the try data structure, how you insert the word in the dictionary and how you search the element. So these are also must do problems. As I said, dynamic programming, you don't have to focus much, but there could be one or two problems and you just need to prepare the basic dynamic programming problems for internships or SD1 positions. And these are few basic problems like longest increasing subsequence in the array, coin change problem, quite a standard on the dynamic programming problem. Third one is factorial. You should know what is memoization technique, where you store the intermediate results in the variables and you reuse those variables in the subsequent steps. Next is minimum edit distance. You are given a word and it is has to be transformed into another word by inserting some character, replacing some character, or deleting some characters. So what is the edit distance in those two words? This is dynamic programming problem. Next set is on stacks and queues. Create a queue using stacks or create a stack using queues. And next one is given an equation, find out whether it has valid braces. So it has curly braces, round braces, square brackets, and find out whether they are properly balanced or not, whether that is a valid expression or not. There are few miscellaneous problems which are also asked quite a few times at Amazon. First is design a LRU cache, least recently used cache. You need to design this data structure. where you will be inserting an element, removing an element, or accessing the element. Next is design a data structure where insert, delete, and find these operations can be done in just order of one. So this is quite an interesting problem. See, if you say stack, like insertion will be order of one. Okay, but if you say delete a particular number, then it is not order of one. You need to remove all the elements first, delete that element, then reinsert all the elements. So this doesn't go to order of one. Finding is also not order of one. Okay, the best you can do using is hash map. If you use hash map, then finding can be order of one if your hash function is of good quality. And generally, these things can be taken care by the language itself. So we don't have to write an hash function. Just you can reuse the hash map from Java or any programming language in which you are coding your solutions. So that's why the C language people face problem here, because there is no inbuilt hash map. So you need to design hash map if you are coding in C. Next is related to multi-threading. Not very important, but could could be asked. Okay, better to prepare. So there is one thread which prints only the odd numbers, another prints only the even numbers, and you need to write a multi-threading program which will synchronize both these threads, and it will print 1 to 100 in order. And you should definitely know hash map and hash sets. Amazon loves hash map. If you just tell hash map in one of the solutions, they will be quite glad. So this was all about data structures and algorithms. Now coming to Amazon leadership principles. Very important if you really want to clear Amazon interview. In every interview, the interviewer will be evaluating you on some leadership principles. They will not be telling you that I am evaluating you on this leadership principle, but the questions will be based on those kind of scenarios. So generally, every interviewer asks you, brief me about yourself or tell me about yourself. And after your introduction, you should redirect your interviewer to the leadership principle you are going to focus on. So how this can be done, I'll tell you in this next set of slides. First is customer obsession. Amazon is quite customer obsessed company. It always keeps customers at its forefront and then only plans all the activities. So if the candidate also shows customer obsession quality, then nobody can stop you from going to Amazon. So when you tell about yourself, immediately you can redirect to the next level and tell, okay, whether you did some project or internship or developed any website for your college events. Then you can tell that I always consider users as my first priority while developing or designing anything, and I considered all the users while doing my college website. For event website, I did consider what kind of challenges students might face, what kind of things students will like in my website, what animations will attract students to my website, will keep them engaged on my website, and I planned my things according to that. My ultimate aim was to make students or the users of my website engaged into my product. So this kind of liners you can throw. Next is ownership. Amazon loves people who can take the ownership. Let it be in your project or in some activities in Amazon. So you can tell how you took the ownership of your college activity or group project, and make them realize that you own big pieces in your project. Just don't say that I just did the documentation, right? It's not owning a big thing. Just say I own complete backend of my project. That's the ownership. If you would have done some open source project, then say, okay, I owned this piece. This will make a very good impression, and you get full marks for this leadership principle. Next is invent and simplify. Obviously, every company will like people who can invent and simplify the things and make the development of that product easier, faster, right? So you need to tell that you need to give some instances where you actually invented new ways to simplify a process. For example, you were facing some problem in your project or assignment. I was facing this kind of problem, and I found a way to do it better. I simplified by writing a script or something, that sort of. So for each and every leadership principle, you must know few examples, you must prepare few examples, and then you answer only those prepared instances. Next is learn and be curious. So after you are brief me about yourself, or in between, you can say, okay, I'm always curious about tech. And this actually, once your interview is over, the interviewer asks you, do you have any questions? That time you can just say, okay, I'm always curious about tech. I keep reading tech magazines. I keep reading articles on Amazon. So how does that work? How so many users are handled? I'm quite curious. I'm eager to know. This kind of throwaway lines you can say. You can tell them I keep exploring different tech stacks, and I my ultimate goal is to become full stack developer, so that I know the backend stuff, front end stuff, the database, everything. And your ultimate goal is to become a full stack developer. This will really show that you are actually curious. If you would have done some projects, always mention that in your resume and try to talk about them, just by simply finding out some resemblance with Amazon products or Amazon technologies you would have used in your project. So those kind of stuff will really show that you are actually curious to learn. Next leadership principle is insist on highest standards. See, this is not high standard or higher standards. This is mentioned as the highest. Amazon wants their employee to work anything which is of the highest standards. So you can say, okay, in my assignments, I always make sure the code is of production quality. I don't like to compromise on quality. Let it be a small assignment or a project. I urge my project mates to meet my standards, and then only I merge the code. I do a very thorough review of my uh, project partners PRs. So see, in Amazon it is called as CR. It is called as code review. Whenever some engineer pushes a commit, okay, it has to be reviewed first by two candidates, then only it is allowed to go into the production. So that activity is called as CR, code review. Amazon focuses on CR. They should be there should be minimal number of revisions in your CRs. There should be less number of mistakes, and this will be helpful when you join Amazon as well. So make sure your first PR itself, your first CR itself is very errorless. Only few comments should be there, because if there are more comments, more revisions, it essentially takes time of the code reviewers and the engineers time as well, right? So make sure your CRs are really good and are of the highest standards. So make some examples, revise some examples where you said you insisted on the highest standards. Next one is dive deep. Again, come up with a story where you had to deep dive into your code or technology to solve something, and use this word, I like to deep dive. I like to dive deep. Okay, this will cover this leadership principle. Okay, in each and every interview, you will have to say 2 to 3 leadership principles indirectly. Okay, the interviewers will be smart and they will be looking for these leadership principles, and they will note it down in their feedback. So in 4 interviews, if you focus on 2 to 3 leadership principles, you would have covered all the 14 leadership principles. Next one is strive to be Earth's best employer. Okay, so this is like a management level of activity. You are an employer, and Amazon wants to strive it's the best employer, right? So make sure, and the best employers is only possible when you have best employees. So you are an interviewer, you should be the best as well, right? So you just tell, I have always tried to be the best student or kid or the employee. If you did internship, I give my best in the field of computer science, make the impact of millions of lives through tech. Next is deliver results. If you just code and if you just don't deliver, it's just a waste of time, right? So you need to tell that I like to deliver results than just blabbering something. My work shows my results. Say I'm a believer that if there are results, then only the work is done. So if you show such attitude towards your work, then you will definitely deliver the results, right? So talk these two, 3 sentences for this leadership principle. Next one is frugality. Quite interesting, Amazon's leadership principle. If you see Jeff Bezos' older desks, okay, they didn't want to spend money on buying the tables. So they went to scrap shop, collected the abandoned doors, and from those doors they created the tables. This saved lot of cost in the initial stages. So from there onwards, frugality has been a leadership principle at Amazon, and that's why Amazon claims that they have reached such heights because they reduce the expenses. So you need to give some example for this. For example, when you needed a higher config PC or server, but you managed by doing some hack. For example, you had 2 i5 machines, and for server you needed, let's say, i7 machine. Then you just combined those 2 machines and you created a server which will serve all the requests. Some kind of those stuff. And you can say, okay, I am a believer of small team for the project, and whenever I do my college project, I just keep one partner and we only do both the designing, documentation, coding, testing, deploying, everything we do, just 2 of us we do, right? So this will also tell the frugality leadership principle. So those were few important leadership principles. Make sure in each interview, the best time to talk about leadership principles is in the first question when they say, okay, brief me about yourself. After your introduction, you can somehow pick up 1 or 2 leadership principles. Don't tell them that I'm picking these 2 leadership principles. Just talk the lines which I had showed you. They will immediately figure out this is the leadership principle he is, his behavior is showing. And the next best chance to ask the question is at the end of the interview when they ask you, do you have any questions for me? That time you can somehow ask the questions and redirect your discussion to the leadership principles. So there are few very good YouTube resources which you can use to assist your preparation. Okay, first is Algorithm Every Day, Vivekananda Kyade. Very good YouTube channel. Many problems are explained in easier way. So make sure you check it out. Next is, if you don't know about the sorting algorithms or the basics, you should watch this channel, My Code School. Now to level up your preparation, you should use Leetcode. If you go to Leetcode, generally it has free and premium subscription. In free subscription, you can see top interview questions and top 100 like questions. You can solve as many as you can. That will also give you good confidence. If you can purchase Leetcode Premium, that is even better, because there you can get the Amazon tag questions. So if you see top Amazon question, this is locked because this is not a premium subscription. But you can take premium subscription, cost around 10,000 for a year. This will be really good to solve the problems and find out the company specific problems. If you don't want to pay, next resource is Gigs for Gigs. If you go to these links /tag/Amazon, you will find out the interview experiences of Amazon. Go through these interview experiences. Go through the interview experiences of SD1 and internship interview experiences. That will also give you a very good idea. And make sure, and just remember, many questions will get repeated. So if you are going through 5 experiences, make sure you can solve all of them. Okay, so now let's see what happens during the interview and after the interview. There will be around 3 to 4 rounds for SD1 positions and might be lesser for internships. Each interviewer takes down a lot of notes. When you are talking, he will be always busy noting down the things, because as as an interviewer, we need to provide very detailed feedback. Okay, and the details are of this sort. You will be surprised. Okay, what when the question was fired. Okay, they note down the time when you replied with the first answer and what was its complexity. That's why I always say reply with the any brute force approach. It will reduce that time. Then he will give some hints to make your approach better. And how did the candidate pick up the hints? That will be also noted. And after picking up the hints, when the optimal solution was proposed. That's why I said don't directly start writing the code. First, discuss the approach with the interviewer. Once he says yes, then only you start the coding part. Then he will note down when the coding was started, when the candidate finished, were there any errors, what was the corrections which were asked, and how did he corrected it, and what leadership principles did the candidate show. These all details will be noted in each and every interview. So make sure you follow all the advices which I have given in this video. After the interview, each all the interviewers will sit together and will discuss about the candidate. That is called as a debrief. The feedback will be taken from all the interviewers, and if one interviewer says, okay, I didn't like the candidate, you are out. So make sure you impress all the interviewers, then only you get into Amazon. If needed, there could be a bar raiser or managerial round, and mostly it will be related to behavioral questions, mostly on the leadership principles. Now let's say with all these efforts, with all these interviews, bar raiser and other stuff, you get selected for the internship. To make your chances to becoming a full-time employee, you need to work a lot harder there as well. Once you get selected, you find out the manager and initially talk to your manager before joining Amazon. Find out the technologies which are being used at Amazon. Mostly it will be Java language and few AWS technologies. Find out those things and prepare these technologies before joining Amazon. Be thorough with Git, how to raise a pull request, how to make commit, how to push the code, how to pull the code. You should know all these basics. You should also know the release pipelines. Amazon has a product called pipelines.amazon.com and all the CI/CD pipelines are there. So if you get some resources for this, make sure you work on these resources before joining Amazon. After joining Amazon, make sure you voice your opinions or suggestions, take interest in that project, show interest, keep giving suggestions, keep showing your willingness to be full-time employee of Amazon. Okay, you need to keep communicating with your manager that you are interested in the full-time. What improvement shall I make in these 6 months of my internship? You should always do more than expected. Okay, just don't be satisfied with the expected things. Make sure you are delivering more than expected. Write clean code, less number of CR revisions should be there so that it will save your time and your team's time. Okay, in the next week interviews, let's say you get rejected, don't feel disheartened. There will be a lot of opportunities. Find out the list of good companies to work for. For example, Microsoft, from my experience, very good company to work for. Intel, again a very good company to work for. There are other companies which are also very good: Walmart, Atlassian, GitHub, LinkedIn, VMware, Flipkart, Cisco, Nvidia, Adobe, Google. All these are very good companies. You can definitely prepare more and apply there as well. If you are still interested in Amazon, then keep in touch with the concerned HR. After you get the rejection, just drop an email to the HR. Okay, I have found my lack of preparation through the interview and it was really good. So I'll be preparing for Amazon as I want to be a full-time employer at Amazon. So I'll be keep I'll be preparing for this and I'll get back to you after 6 months. So meanwhile, you just keep preparing, take Leetcode Premium, solve many problems, and then you will be ready for interviews after 6 months, because 6 months will be a cool down period at Amazon. You cannot apply again within 6 months. So just keep preparing and definitely you can get into the company you want. So thanks a lot guys. I have YouTube channel called Learn from IITN where I keep guiding students right from high school levels. I give information about various exams for college students, for IIT JEE preparation, for GATE preparation. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, Learn from IITN, and the PPTs for this you can find it on my Telegram channel. Just find Learn from IITN on Telegram and you will get the slides and the links used in this presentation. Thank you.